A major win for the family of Korryn Gaines. A $38 million verdict reinstated in an ongoing wrongful death lawsuit. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Ritter. What was a case that gained nationwide attention? Korryn Gaines shot and killed by police during an hour-long standoff in Baltimore County. While a verdict awarded her son and family millions, it was then overruled by a judge. WJZ is live tonight. Rachel Menentoff speaks with the family's attorney, who breaks down the new ruling, what it means, and what comes next. Rachel.
Rick, good evening. Originally, a jury awarded the family $38 million in 2018, but a year later, a circuit court judge overturned that decision. Today's ruling essentially says that judge was wrong. It's a major victory for the family of Korryn Gaines in an ongoing legal battle. A special appeals court ruled Wednesday to reinstate the $38 million verdict awarded to them in a civil suit.
Do you want to go out there?
Gaines was shot and killed in 2016 by Baltimore County Police during a 6-hour standoff at her Randallstown apartment after police say she pointed a shotgun at officers trying to serve an arrest warrant.
Korryn Gaines died a horrible, tragic, sadistic, torturous death, and we just wanted justice for her and her family.
Ever since her death, Gaines' family has been fighting through the legal system. They sued Baltimore County Police, saying the officer used excessive force when he fatally shot Korryn and injured her 5-year-old son. In 2018, a grand jury awarded Gaines' family $38 million. But a year later, a Baltimore County Circuit Court judge reversed that decision, citing qualified immunity, which protects police officers from civil liability when carrying out their duties. The family appealed, and on Wednesday, the Maryland Court of Special Appeals ruled in their favor. WJZ spoke to the family attorney, J. Wendell Gordon, who says Korryn's mom was emotional when she got the news.
She wanted to say that she knew that justice was on the wings for us and that we would win this case, and she's very excited.
Gordon says the next step is to return to court, where they will make adjustments to the verdict and figure out what the actual award will be.
My name is Owan, and I am the co-manager for the Black Millennials for Flint Alumni Network. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Black Millennials for Flint for this important conversation on mental genocide and the attack on Black bodies and our mental health. Today, I am in a conversation with Ryan Gaines, who is the brother of Korryn Gaines. And before we get into the actual conversation, I just want to open up and introduce people to what it is that we are doing for mental health awareness and why this is important. So in August 1st, 2016, Korryn Gaines was murdered by the Baltimore County Police Department. They came to her Randallstown, Maryland apartment home and served a misdemeanor warrant for a traffic violation. Being on guard from her previous interactions with the police and reported history of their violence towards Korryn, she decided to arm herself and protect her son, Cody. Korryn held her ground for 6 hours before a tactical forces entered, shooting Korryn 5 times and her son twice. While the son survived, Korryn did not. Now, prior to this fateful interaction, Korryn Gaines had a lawsuit against her landlords in the Baltimore city for their negligence in lead poisoning and prevention. Having suffered from lead poisoning herself, Korryn knew and understood the devastating effects that it had on our community. To give further background on lead and why it is such a critical aspect of this story, even the smallest trace amount of lead found in your bloodstream can result in lower IQ, higher rates of aggression, and behavioral issues. And to further paint a picture of how devastating this is, over 99% of children who are affected by lead poisoning are actually African American. So that can just let you know how effective this is in our community. So today, as I said, we're in conversation with Korryn's brother, Ryan Gaines, and as we not only address the racist public policy that's been put in place, we're discussing police violence and the mental health awareness to also share the truth of Korryn Gaines' stories. I feel like for the past few years, there's been a lot of talking and not enough truth telling. So again, I'm so grateful to have you here with us, Ryan. Before we get right into it, just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you got going on, and how we can support you today.
Yeah, thank you, Queen. Thanks for having me. So right now, what I've been doing is, just branding my sister name, keeping her name alive. So right now, I run a company a business called BYR, that's Black Young Royalty. And yes, Korryn is the face of it. So yeah, it's actually therapeutic. It just felt like I'm doing something for my sister. You feel me? But yeah, that's basically what I've been doing, and just walking the streets and selling the shirts, letting the story be known, the real story of what happened with my sister, and everything in that fact.
Okay, great. Now, the story of Korryn Gaines happened in 2016, and she was a 26-year-old mother of 2 children. And before we get into her story, I have to ask, how is Korryn's son Cody and her daughter doing? How are they?
Carson is wonderful, actually. She's getting big, little chunky self, but she's doing actually real good. Cody, I can't actually speak on. My mom will be able to actually tell you, of his well-being. I'm pretty sure he's, healthy and everything. As far as his mental, I wouldn't be able to comment on that. Like I said, my mom is basically the one, who gets to see him. It's a lot of, it's a lot,
yeah, I understand. It's family things, and that's real. That's real. Yeah. And I know we, in our previous conversation, you had talked about siblings supporting siblings, murdered siblings. And if you want to speak a little to that organization, how you're doing that, because I know, when things like this, family come around, all this type of stuff, and it's real life after the fact. And so just want to give some insight on like how you're dealing with that.
Yes, actually, I met up with a good young king by the name of Davon, aka PF Kaboom. He actually ran it by me, and it just made so much sense. SMS, siblings, gets murdered siblings, and he actually, lost a sister, so he know the pain, Tawanda Jones, the Tyrone West situation. We just, the siblings hurt. We hurt. We grew up with our brothers, we grew up with our sisters, and just to lose them in an instant. Violently. I mean, like I said, I just want to give people a voice. Like, you don't have to be angry all the time. You can direct your anger and your, to something positive.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good segue into how we are viewing each other, how we're viewing each other as siblings. Because like I said, there's a lot of people who, we here for the hashtags, we here for the marches, but then the after effects, right? And so just to get more insight on who Korryn was and get more into her story, it has been confirmed by the CDC and countless of studies that link early childhood-led exposure to mental illness, right? We mentioned that earlier. And we also talked about your sister having a lawsuit against the city as well as her landlord. Can you give any insight on her endeavors leading up to her death or current state of the lawsuit as it is?
Okay, well, so yeah, she did actually have an active lawsuit. I believe it was against Baltimore City Homes. They claimed, bankruptcy, so they, they wouldn't, pay her or whatever. But she, my sister was pulled over one day, and she was actually jailed for having, I believe, not having her vehicle registered. So, they jailed my sister for 2 days. I believe it was 2 days. Don't quote me, but I believe it was 2 days. They didn't feed or give her any water. Mm-hmm. She actually was pregnant with twins. She lost those babies. So back to the lawsuit. I would hate to think that it had anything to do with her death. I don't want to go that route. I would hate it. I would hate to think that, Queen. Right. And I like I said, I apologize. I'm a little nervous. So I hope that answer, was enough. I mean, you can ask it another way or whatever. I don't know if I answered it.
No, you did answer it clearly as far as you talked about the events leading up to her death and then the current state of the lawsuit. I know you weren't in it. They were big.
Right.
Do you know if this is still going on or if it's still happening or that with her death, it kind of just was done?
To my understanding, I do believe it felt like it did go away. Like I haven't heard anything about it.
Understood. And Korryn was known in social media, known on social media for sharing her critiques of the police, of these systems boldly. And she was very vocal about plights and issues and of the community and passionate about that. Where did Korryn get that passion for activism from? And where did her knowledge base start? Like, how did she begin to increase her awareness around this?
First of all, let me say this. Everybody thought Korryn was my big sister. I'm the older brother. So that being said, I know this is kind of cliche to say, but she was born with it from day one. I mean, from, that's my sister. I've known her since she was, a baby, since she was able to talk, was able to do things. She was always like a revolutionary. Like always, it was in our blood. I'm gonna say this too, Queen. I believe my sister was attacked for a reason. Like I said, she was born with it. Loved to help people. She wanted to. She did her own homeschooling. She actually wanted to start her own school. Her own schools, educating our own. Our own, basically.
That's real. That's right. And that's why I think her story really gravitated. I gravitated to her story so much because you can tell in her video, not even outside of like with police, you can tell in her video, she just had that real innate, genuine passion for what she was doing, what she was standing for. And she truly believed in what she was doing. So if it wasn't for the lawsuit, I do believe that there may have been a target on her because she was a person that stood her ground and she knew her rights. She knew her rights for sure.
She left one hell of a brick trail.
Yeah, good. And so my next question would be is, there were a lot of criticisms after the news of Korryn's death came out, right? A lot of people were saying, how can you do that with your son in the room? You should have did this. You would have just complied. I don't feel sorry for her. She's a bad mom, et cetera, et cetera. But how do you feel when you hear those sentiments? And do you think Korryn could have done anything differently?
If she could have done anything differently, best believe my sister would. I'm gonna just say this on the record. My sister was shot in her back first while she was making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for my nephew. Not a threat at all. That's when they took their shot. 6 hour standoff. Y'all wait for her to make a sandwich for my nephew, and then you take a shot when she's not a threat?
Don't we get
wicked,
it?
Queen. It's wicked. I don't even know if I answered your question. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
No, this is not about an answering question. We just want to get to the truth. People need to know and understand because when it came out, obviously the mass media did its job, right? Everybody had an opinion, everybody has a discussion, and everybody has a debate on whether they deserved it or not, or depending on the circumstances, et cetera, et cetera. So it's important that we hear that, we were wrong about how you were wrong. You were wrong about Korryn. You know what I'm saying? This was an act of police violence, and it definitely was an act of escalated situation that did not need to be escalated on their behalf. Right. And so that's why it's important to have these conversations. So it's good. But do you think that Korryn could have done anything differently in that moment or during that time?
I believe they came with the motive to murder my sister. Like I said, she was not a threat at the time of the shooting. And I actually want to put this fact out there. My sister's shotgun was fired 3 times. They dusted my, I don't know if the right terms, but they dusted my sister's hands for gunpowder. No gunpowder. But the shotgun was discharged 3 times. Let me tell you this too, Queen. I'm sorry. Okay. So my sister was in her dilemma. I believe it started, at 7 in the morning. Like I said, don't quote me. It was in the AM though, the early morning. The police called my mom. She talked to him for a while. She told them that I believe that she was going to come down there. They told her that they were going to refer her call to someone in charge. She's talking to the person in charge. My mom asked her, "Can I please come down there? Please." She said, "Please don't shoot me. Please don't kill my daughter. Can I come down there? I can get my daughter to come out the house." You know what they told my mom at basically 11:30, 12 in the afternoon? It's way past that, man. And me having common sense, y'all saying it was a 6-hour standoff. I believe they killed my sister at 11:30 or 12 o'clock, Queen. I think it was a big cover up. And I cannot wait until my family get the transcripts from when we were in court, because these officers were basically admitting. I mean, you had to. The truth is the truth.
Right.
The experts even had to get on board with the truth. But like you said, I really can't persuade anyone's opinion on how they feel about my sister. I just want the transcript so they can see. They can see the evil truth. They can see the cover up. They can see what they tried to do.
Yeah, that and again, that's why this conversation is so important, so we know and understand the truth of how it happened. And then for most recently, we have called on the names of other women who have died due to police violence, right? And misconduct, to name a few, like Breonna Taylor, Ma'Khia Bryant, and most recently Pamela Turner. And we use the hashtag Say Her Name because that's often the story of our women. The stories of Black women in these circumstances go unheard because Black men are primarily the ones who are affected by police brutality and violence. But that shouldn't overshadow or take away from when women experience it, right? And so as a Black man and a community advocate, how can we continue to create space and amplify the voices of Black women who are in the movement of justice? And yeah.
First of all, protection. We must protect our queens. Right now, Queen, anything beyond that, I don't know what to do. But right now, our queens are dying at an alarming rate. So right now on the agenda for me is protection. I was just talking to my mentor, Boom, earlier. I love my girls. You have to protect your women, your queens. It starts there. Like I said, I'm sorry, Queen, that I couldn't get deep into it. I'm new to this, but right now I'm at a groundwork and protection. We must protect the queens.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for saying that, because I think a lot of Black women, they don't hear that too often. And we talk about protect Black women, but like, what does that mean and what does that look like? But it's good to know that that is a primary source that we can go to. And so one of my last questions is going to be, what would you like to see for the legacy of Korryn Gaines and her name?
What I would like to see, I believe they did stop the no-knock warrants, I believe, right, Queen? So that's one piece down. This for one, they need to cancel this qualified immunity thing. When you're wrong, you're wrong. Right now, I'm gonna be honest with you. That's my biggest pet peeve. That qualified immunity. How can my Black brother go outside and kill someone and be held to the utmost extent to the law, but the police does it in cold blood? Oh, he has qualified immunity. We need some type of legislative that goes around qualified immunity like that, like qualified immunity goes around murder.
Can you explain that? Because I haven't heard of that before, and I don't know, maybe just explain a little bit deeper for the listeners.
Okay, so qualified immunity is basically my sister. They shot and killed my sister. But it was like he's an asset of the state or the federal government. It's like he's not held reliable. So he's not held reliable for damages and anything that occurred. Same thing like when they would kick your door in. They're not held reliable for the damages. They were acting on the state or acting on the federal government type stuff. But yes, qualified immunity, it's basically a kill-free card.
Okay. Wow, I didn't even know that. That's something well, hopefully we can address, because that doesn't even make sense that if you're an asset of the state, that doesn't give you a free murder pass. And again, it goes into this whole systemic racism issue when we talk about environmental justice, public policy, public health. They are all combined and meshed into one. And It's like once we get to one battle, it's another battle. Once we get into another thing, it's something else. It's another law. It's another policy. It's another thing that is meant to, they say it's to serve and protect, but really is to protect them and to further allow them to do what they've been doing. So I thank you so much for giving just a short, brief insight into Korryn. I know that you have your brand, Black Royalty.
Black Young Royalty.
Black Young Royalty. If you want to just take a moment and speak on that, and how we can support you, find you, shop with you, buy from you.
Yes, actually, ma'am. Yes. Well, I'm actually on Instagram. That's my Instagram name is BYK_gains. That's GAINES. And I'm also doing shipping now. This is actually one of my products right here.
Okay. I got a cotton shirt.
You better Queen.
Next time in Baltimore.
I gotta know what I'll send you some. I gotta send you some because you gave me an opportunity, Queen. You gave me a pedestal. Oh no, you really did, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate that. No, this is definitely a conversation that needed to be had. It's coming up close to the anniversary of her death, and so I want to make sure that we keep the conversation alive about Korryn and about environmental justice and why the fight against lead prevention is not just an environmental thing. It's a racism thing. It's something that has affected our children for generation to generation, because especially in the community of Baltimore, I mean, we make the jokes about having the lead checks and all that stuff, and Baltimore being a community that that raised me, is like, you see why certain things happen in these inner cities, because even down to the housing system is corrupt. It's built, we talk about the for young boys, when we talk about the prison, the pipeline, like it's starting down at the home, like early, like kids as young as 2, 3 years old getting, lead poisoning just from eating, having pick or whatever, and it's going with lifelong effects. And then we wondering why the state of our community is in and what it's in, because it affects your mental health, and it's at the core of everything that we do. So, your sister being bold and speaking on that and putting together a lawsuit for that. I mean, that at 26 years old, she was a powerhouse, and I carry her spirit with me so much. So, me being a poet and a writer, she has inspired me so much, and she actually has helped me continue doing community work. So really the gratitude is to you for keeping her name alive, for doing this. And you know her better than anybody else can know her. So I appreciate you telling the truth about her life. And so you heard it here first, as regards to, who you are, Ryan.